Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
A lot of big cities have got problems with illegal dumping. And so if you go downtown Detroit or downtown Flint or many of the big cities that I'm familiar with, but you have them near you as well, you'll discover that if you go a little bit of ways from downtown and start just driving around neighborhoods and stuff, you'll often see neighborhoods that have vacant lots with stuff dumped in them. And once people start dumping stuff, it's hard to get them to stop. And you'll see piles of tires, for instance, or just piles of just debris. And what's happening is somebody's got a load of stuff. They could pay to take it to a dump or a landfill, but that costs money. You just drive downtown Detroit, go a few blocks over, find a vacant lot and dump it there. It's illegal, but the police in many of these big cities have got more important things to do. And plus, it's hard to catch somebody who is looking around and they see a vacant lot and they very quickly just tip a load of tires and drive off. So here's a story that Kevin sent me where they caught somebody. And when you catch somebody doing something like this, you've got to throw the book at them because it is so annoying. I've mentioned before, I often bike or run near where I live, and there's dirt roads I run and bike down. And there's a ditch in one of those dirt roads, and a couple times a year, somebody comes by and just dumps a load of tires there. It's probably the same person. Where do they think those tires are going to go? They don't dissolve. They don't evaporate. Someone else has got to come by and clean it up. And it's wasteful. I've talked about this before. The person who's dumping the tires saves some money, but it costs more than what they saved to clean that mess up. And that's the problem. So here a business owner has been accused of illegal dumping, and he admits it was wrong. Wow. Darren Cunningham wrote this for WXYZ TV, ABC 7 out of Detroit. A Detroit business is accused of illegal dumping. The city said the perpetrators were caught in the act. So it's like the fish jumping into your boat when you're fishing. It happened Tuesday morning on 30th Street near Herbert Street. A woman said she's been connected to her home on 30th Street since 1952. And she also owns some vacant lots around it. So she likes the area. She keeps an eye on the area. She's always watching. And she said, I'm just so glad that we're getting cleaned up around here. But Tuesday morning, Detroit's demolition department said one of its demolition contractors working on 30th noticed illegal dumping and a dump truck that got stuck in the mud. Oh my gosh, that's not good. So you're out dumping something where you shouldn't be dumping it, and your truck gets stuck. It happened on property owned by the Detroit Land Bank Authority. So that's compounding the problem. This is not abandoned property or an absentee landlord. This is owned by the Detroit Land Bank Authority. This particular contractor knew that the material had not been here the day before and alerted the field liaisons to the fact that it was now in place, and we responded accordingly, says the director of the demolition department. The next call was to Detroit Police, which is preparing to issue a citation against the construction company that owns the truck that was dumping. So everybody now is talking about this. What you see today is a collaboration, as the director indicated, from the mayor, and it's directly feedback from the community. And that's the police department talking. They're sick and tired of blight, and the chief has given us the charge. We will support our other city entities and work together to address this issue. So those that are considering this, consider this a warning. Now, the owner of the company did speak to 7 Action News, WXYZ TV Detroit. He said he was hired by a man who lives at another home to pour some dirt to even out the ground on an adjacent lot. And the only mistake that I did here, and I know I did make a mistake, is driving in somebody else's lot. So he says that he's trying to get someplace legally. He has a right to be here, and he decided to get there by driving over somebody else's property, which is not correct, right? He said his workers and the truck got stuck when crossing over the property owned by the land bank, and they poured a mound of dirt on the land bank property to lighten the load. So they were driving across the property, and the truck got stuck. So to unstick it, they decided to unload it, which makes sense on some levels, except that now you got a big pile of stuff on the ground. We don't know what it is. A demolition department spokesperson said it appears that the mound of dirt is on a private residential lot. However, the bottom line is that the contractor here, the construction company, shouldn't have crossed over the land bank property, let alone dump on it in the first place. And the man acknowledges this, the man who owns the company. He said, I told the contractors, be patient, I'm coming right back and I'll move it where it's got to go. So once they contacted him, said, look, you can't dump. Oh, I'll come get it. I'll come get it. So the man who this guy said hired the company told Channel 7 he had no comment. So it's unclear if he's connected to this or not. The demolition department said the soil is in the process of being tested to see what's in it and whether it's hazardous. And that will determine how it should be disposed of. So, don't know. And that's the other problem. You know, if you come across a pile of tires in a ditch by the side of the road, in a dirt road out in the middle of nowhere, you look at that and go, okay, those are tires. It's probably just tires. The odds of them being like covered in something toxic, I mean, probably just tires, okay? But a load of dirt that's being dumped someplace, where'd that dirt come from? Was it removed from a Superfund site and it's loaded with all kinds of chemicals? Who knows? And that's the concern. And so when someone dumps something anonymously and leaves, you come by and look at it and go, what is this? And so I've spoken to people who have dealt with these problems in Detroit in particular. And they go, you get people who will demolish a building and they'll take all the building materials that were previously a building, now it's a deconstructed building, and they put it in the back of a big old truck and they haul it off. And the vehicle just goes over someplace else in Detroit and dumps it all in a vacant lot, and that's it. And so you got to then consider all of the materials that went into building buildings that are now being torn down. Things like asbestos and so on. So there could be all kinds of weird stuff in there that's dangerous. And that's another problem on top of just the blight, the ugliness of it all. And I've talked to these people who are dealing with this problem in Detroit, and they say, you've got a block of houses. Okay, you got a block, houses and residences and yards and driveways and garages. And when the population declined in the city of Detroit, it started dropping from the 60s and 70s. Some houses were abandoned. Some houses burned down. Some houses were demolished. But there will be people who still live there, the holdouts. The people are still there, okay? Like this woman who's been there since 1952, okay? And so the few that are left are hoping for a comeback. And there are entities, charities, nonprofits, organizations that are going into some of these neighborhoods and rebuilding. And they'll look at a block and go, this block here has got 5 vacant lots. If we can get the lot cheap enough, put a house on it, someone moves into it, that'll start reversing this trend. And so they can do that, but it's one house at a time, one lot at a time. And so imagine your dismay that you're down there doing some work, demolishing an old home or putting in a new home, and somebody just dumps a pile of garbage in the lot across the street. So number one, there's a pile of garbage there you got to look at. Number two, someone's going to pay to have it removed. And the people who dumped it go, oh, well, I don't care. I just want to get rid of this stuff. So it's crazy, the stuff that people dump. And, you know, bathtubs, half of a car, you know, an engine block, that kind of stuff. So I'm glad they caught somebody. I'm glad they're going to take them to task on it. And I hope that this is an indication that word will get out that you shouldn't do this. And if you do get caught, they're going to make you pay for it. So I know it's not the biggest story on earth, but it's actually quite unusual because the amount of illegal dumping going on in big cities like Detroit right now, literally right now, someone is dumping a load of garbage in some lot they don't own in Detroit. I guarantee it's happening right now. And so they got to put a stop to it. And the same way you rebuild the blocks one lot at a time, you do this one illegal dumper at a time. So Kevin sent me the story from WXYZ TV in Detroit. Darren Cunningham wrote that. Business accused of illegal dumping in Detroit. And the owner admits, but he says it was a mistake. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. If no one comes from the future to stop you, then how bad could it be?